Hop-Up Garage Racer. Today we have the long-awaited segment, American Chop, and we found the most relevant and newest BMW 3 Series for you, the BMW G20. Today you'll find out how Carbringers estimated the final cost of this car. We'll tell you about the innovations and perks BMW has packed into the new G20 model and how exactly it differs from the F30. After that, we'll ask a few questions to the current owner of this G20. And these questions will be especially interesting because the owner's previous car was an F30 with a stage tune, so he'll have an objective basis to compare these models. So grab some popcorn and let's get started. Here's a quick overview of this car. It's a 2020 G20, the 330i with all-wheel drive. Under the hood is the B48 engine, delivering 258 horsepower. This is the successor to the super popular and beloved N20, which we've already reviewed in a video that got a ton of views and comments. It's a 2.0-liter turbocharged gasoline engine. In the N20, on the 328i version of the F30, it had 245 horsepower. Here we've got 258, meaning this car should theoretically be a bit more dynamic. We've already done performance measurements for you, including drag races with an all-wheel drive 328i in stock. By the way, we also recorded 0-100 km/h runs on a drag strip. According to the specs, it should do 5.5 seconds, but we'll see how it performs in reality. For many BMW owners and viewers of our channel, the G20 feels like something from outer space, like a UFO straight out of BMW's factory. It's dramatically different from the previous F30, both inside and out. Now we'll go through the specific and interesting differences that serve as major advantages for G20 owners, or say, in about 10 years for potential G20 buyers. You'll be able to decide and understand why. Let's break it down point by point. Fundamentally and advantageously, the G20 stands apart from the F30. Let us begin with the first point, lighting. Of course, owners who purchase a G20 in the present day, even with the most basic lighting package, would hardly be considered budget tier. However, the F30 with its base package comes with halogen headlights, which are the bane of such trims and cars. Every owner wants to replace them as soon as possible, at least with xenon lights, but most often with LED lights. Retrofitting LED headlights is the most common upgrade request we handle at our service center. Fast forward 5 or 10 years, when the G20's price drops to around $15,000, even buyers of the most basic models will receive LED headlights by default. The G20 comes with 3 types of headlights. The first is the standard LED. The second is the adaptive LED, which is what we currently have, and the top-tier option features laser headlights. The key difference is that on the F30, halogen headlights were often replaced not just for aesthetic reasons, but because they provided almost no visibility at night or in low light conditions. Here, however, the base model comes with LED headlights. Some people might still choose to upgrade them to laser LED or adaptive LED headlights purely for aesthetic reasons. This is because the base option features somewhat underwhelming design elements, like small droplets under the headlights, which look rather unimpressive compared to the laser ones. In this particular car, we have adaptive LED headlights. Instead of the small droplets, there are more like half eyelashes, which look much more stylish and dynamic. I think these headlights won't be swapped out for laser ones. Plus, what's the point of laser headlights? Laser headlights work at speeds of about 60 kilometers per hour and during super dark nights. That is, when there is no light at all. Only then do they activate and they shine up to 600 meters. A regular LED shines up to 300 meters, while the laser shines up to 600 meters. Therefore, in terms of functionality, you might not even see the laser lights in action for a year. But of course, in terms of appearance, they will look great. But we'll see what the cost will be when used. We rank the first points by their importance for our customers. Since in our country people prefer the exterior design, we listed the lighting first. As for the second point, I thought of putting the M package. But as someone here suggests, the wheels account for 80% of the appearance. I think it's more like 50-60. That's why we put the wheels in second place. I've seen about 20 of those models, both in the US and in Ukraine. I haven't come across 17-inch wheels at all. They might be on the lowest trims, but they're really hard to find. So there's a big advantage compared to the F30. You get 18-inch wheels right from the start, which look pretty good. And there's another cool feature, the BMW logo that keeps its position, like in Rolls-Royce, or like the sets we have. They cost more than $100. So if you compare them to the basic wheels of the F30, for example, like our operators, we'll add a photo. 17-inch wheels. They're very common. It's mainstream. They really ruin the look. I'd remove them right away. But with the G20, you immediately avoid this problem. You don't need to spend extra money. By the way, there's an interesting story about the wheels. Our mechanic bought an F30, and when he put on some cool 19-inch wheels, the car immediately became unrecognizable. You walk past it and think, wow, it looks really sporty. So, wheels really do make a difference. The third point is the body kit. This is something that F30 owners often want to add because in stock form, an F30 looks pretty bad without it. When I looked at the G20, I couldn't immediately tell where the M body kit was and where it wasn't. Maybe it's because the G20 still seems kind of futuristic and new. Not everyone has gotten used to it or noticed all the details yet. They can't see the difference. Right now, we have the G20 without the M body kit. But now we'll show you pictures of what the M body kit looks like. It has additional air intakes and looks a bit more aggressive. But looking at this G20, you can't really say it looks poor or unexciting. This includes the optics, bumper, and black inserts. They give a more dynamic and sporty look. And those who don't know the difference between the M body kit and the regular one won't even notice. For them, this car will seem very aggressive and sporty. Before we move on to the next point about the exhaust, let's briefly mention some small features. These are the rear lights. On the F30, these are often included in the facelift. We haven't seen the facelift yet, but these lights look really awesome. The LED design looks very cool. There is also the shadow line. The owner added it separately. It costs about $600 new in Germany. The fourth point is the exhaust. BMW pleased the owners of the G20 with the exterior exhaust. In all versions with any engines, there is a dual exhaust with a cool tip. And it sounds quite good. This means that many G20 owners won't even bother to install a dual or quad exhaust system or increase the sound volume. The current appearance and sound are enough for them. For those who want to install a quad exhaust, it will be much easier to do so, since there is already a dual exhaust system in place. The next point that will please the owners of the G20. This is the ambient lighting in the interior. It is very common and allows you to change the colors. Also with coding, you can set any color for the lighting. In the F30, this option was very rare. Now owners of the G20 won't have to envy the photos and the look of F30 or G30 interior lighting. Now they in G30 will be able to enjoy this light themselves. A personal thought from me, many people chase after the exterior appearance, but in reality, you spend much more time inside the car than looking at it from the outside. You're focused on what's happening inside. This lighting really adds coolness to the interior, boosts your mood, and will bring you joy. I think it's much more important than the car's exterior appearance. The next small feature is the automatic trunk door closure. Previously, this option was only available for the 5 Series, and it was never available for the 3 Series. Now it comes standard. Many will find this useful. The next thing that the lucky owner of the G20 will notice when they sit inside is the new dashboard. This is an LED dashboard with a clever arrangement of the dials. They are positioned outward. We will now show you how this looks. So this is very different in style from the previous versions. If a driver from the F30, it got the LED instrument cluster but didn't spend the money to install it. In most packages, this instrument cluster comes as standard. However, there is also a more basic version where the LED cluster still exists, but the needles move. So here we have a new feature, like in the M8, for example, where the needles are positioned on the side. The next cool feature that the G20 inherited from its older siblings in the G series, which wasn't available in the F series, is the ability to remember the last 50 meters traveled and automatically reverse back. So you drive forward, press a button, and the car by itself turns the steering wheel and returns to the starting position. But as I saw in reviews, it can sometimes bump into people there. But from what I found on the internet, if a person is standing there and the car moves backward, it can calmly run over them. Also, in all F-Series models, except for the 3 Series, 2 Series, and 1 Series, there were electric handbrakes. Now, this feature has reached the 3 Series, and the G20 comes with an electric handbrake. Also, this series offers super options that were unthinkable in the F-Series. Here, you can use your mobile phone to grant access, create virtual keys, and set different access levels for each key. In other words, you can give different users the ability to drive the car with varying levels of power, traction control, and different modes. But this feature is likely unavailable in Ukraine since connected drive is not available here. However, there are similar features such as starting the car with a mobile phone, but not for us. But in our case, you can play around with starting and stopping the engine using the key. We'll demonstrate that now. Let's try starting and stopping the car with the key. This used to be available only with aftermarket anti-theft systems using additional keys. But now BMW has made this feature an official part of the car. To start, the car must be closed, locked, 3 times. Press the close button. I did it a second time too. We'll see. We'll wait. Come on. The first time worked so far. It's all right here. It's fine now. It's running. The nostrils opened. Right now, the car is started and locked. If someone sits in and tries to drive, it won't go anywhere without the key. The key needs to be inside for it to move. Now we lock it up. Shut it down. 3. Press it 3 times. Wait. I go up. That's it. Nostrils have closed. And the car stays closed. For drifting enthusiasts and those who enjoy a bit of hooliganism, the G20 is available with an option for a limited slip differential. This means you have access to the part number of the rear differential straight from the factory, similar to the M3 and M4, F80 and F82 models. These are installed on the G20, giving you a differential with a limited slip. It's a dream come true for any drifter. The next option that would excite F30 owners, this is the wireless charging feature. Here it is. There's always the symbol, but this option is not always available. Many owners think they have this feature, but when it doesn't work, they complain on forums. In reality, this option isn't available in all cars. Another cool feature now available for owners of the 3 Series is the double glazing. Here we have single glazing, but there is an option to order double glazing. This will significantly improve sound insulation, especially for front passengers. There's also the auto hold option, which I think is for those who enjoy it, but it takes some getting used to. This is when you don't need to press the brake. When you release the brake, typically on a torque converter, the car starts moving. Here, you don't press the brake, you simply release the gas pedal. And the car stops on its own. So to start moving, you need to press the gas, and when you release it, the car stops. It automatically applies the brake for you. This means you don't have to constantly switch your right foot between the gas and brake pedals. The car stops by itself, which is convenient, but you need to get used to it. Also, an option that has been carried over from older models is the auto-closing grille. So right now, as you can see, it's closed. So if the engine is not warm enough, not sufficiently heated, it may remain closed to heat up quickly and improve aerodynamics. But when the engine requires additional cooling, it will open. And the additional airflow better cools the radiators. It makes me think about what might happen in 10 years when, for example, the actuator gets stuck and there won't be any errors on the dashboard. The driver won't even know that the vents are closed and will keep driving and accelerating normally. This could lead to overheating and engine problems. But I think BMW thought about this and installed some kind of position sensor. At least there will be errors if it gets stuck. Also, this could cause problems in winter when there's a lot of ice and snow. And let's see how they will open. There could be issues with corrosion and some errors. I think some people might solve this by coding. I believe it's possible to code them to stay open all the time so they don't have to worry about it. Also, a minor but very interesting point is the windshield washer system in the new G20 wipers. Previously, in the F30, the nozzles were separate and sprayed water onto the windshield, and then the wipers would activate. Now the nozzles are built into the wipers and spray the water directly under the wiper. This reduces fluid consumption and makes the cleaning process more precise and efficient. Additionally, the G20 offers a small but very useful feature, the vitality system. There are sensors that monitor the driver and assess their level of fatigue. If they detect that the driver is very tired, they activate airflow. It alternates between cold and warm. Music may start playing, and certain elements may light up. This is to prevent the driver from falling asleep while driving. We also found a small detail here. This detail concerns the rear door glass. Look at the frame here. There is no frame at all. It is just a rubber seal and glass. It is a system similar to the one in the Grand Coupe F36. So look, if you open the door and there is this wall here, the first thing that might hit it could be the door or possibly this glass. I feel that this glass might become some sort of consumable for the driver. We've told you about many distinctive features of the G20 compared to the G30. Now we'll mention an issue that occurs in early versions of the G20. It's a problem with the rear view mirrors. They are susceptible to moisture ingress. When moisture gets inside, it damages the control board. At some point you might notice that the rear view mirror doesn't open or close. This is probably the first and most common malfunction found in this model overall. After buying a new one, now let's do a small test drive of this 330 and compare it with its main predecessor. This G328 is also all-wheel drive. I am recording. 1, 2, 3. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Slowly. 611. So here we go, owner Artem. Can somebody say hello?
Hi.
My name is Vadim, so here's the deal. The owner, Artem, had an F30 before the G20. That's why our review is all the more interesting, because he can tell us his first impressions of the G20, what the differences are with the F30, and that I think will be of interest to a lot of people.
First of all, it's noise isolation. You get in the G20 and you realize that you're in a car that's 2 heads taller.
Now we're driving there, I can hear noises, I can hear some noise.
Yes, but in the F30 there's actually, well, it's a rattling noise, and that's eliminated if you soundproofed it.
In the F30, you touch the climate control panel like that.
Yes.
And then there's the handles. Door handles, I'm pulling the door handle now. There's nothing to squeak, that's what I said. F30.
30, it's more rigid. More uncomfortable for, say, everyday driving. Here you ride if you just want to chill. You ride on the track, you're relaxed, you don't get tired. It's got a sports seat. You can put a bolster, you can put a side support. You ride like this.
There's side bolsters too.
Yes, but they're not as comfortable. The Germans worked on this and we finally got new seats. Here, like in the F30, there might also be knee support from below. They are comfortable and you don't get tired in them. In the F30 with the sports seats, I would get tired on long distances. I like these seats better, and there's a more ergonomic interior. You get CarPlay, you get navigation from your phone, from your iPhone.
It comes ready from the factory, no coding or programming needed. You just get the navigation from your iPhone.
Besides getting a BMW, you get BMW handling, you get BMW dynamics.
I've heard the same words in the F30 reviews. You can say the same thing. About BMW dynamics and steering.
You get a modern gadget on top of all that. It's like a new and an old iPhone. The F30 is a 7th generation iPhone. It's the latest. 12th? I don't know. I don't know about iPhones.
Are you the first BMW owner with an Android phone?
Yeah.
Let's go through the points. For example, the suspension, it's more
ergonomic. You feel fewer bumps, but if you take a sharp turn, you don't get knocked over, you don't get thrown around.
Softer, but the handling is tricky.
The handling has improved a lot. I don't feel the body roll like on the stock suspension of the F30. Here you take a turn at 90 and the car doesn't roll, it doesn't sway. On the F30, the first thing I did was change the stabilizer.
How was it on the F30?
The shocks are more focused on providing a comfortable ride on potholes. And if you're pushing turns on the track, you need to change the stabilizers. And when I changed the stabilizers, the body roll disappeared.
You had a 328.
Dynamics. In terms of dynamics, in the city, of course, it's more than enough. You can launch from the traffic light, switch the gearbox to sport mode, and go. But the dynamics on stage 2 of the F30 were.
How long did you actually drive with the Stage?
On the Stage, I drove the stock F30 for 6 months. So for 6 months, I had 245 horsepower. Then I did stage 2, which gave about 300 horsepower. That was a boot mod, right? And now here it's 258 horsepower. And there's quite a difference. Or have you already forgotten the stock performance?
So for 6 months, you had 245 horsepower. Then did stage 2, which gave about 300
stock
horsepower.
F30,
That was a boot mod, right? And now
faster,
here it's 258
but of course
horsepower.
it doesn't
And there's quite a
quite match
difference.
the
Or
stage
have you already
2,
forgotten
but
the
I
stock
think
performance?
we'll fix this after all.
Yes. There's a nuance. Artem already bought the boot mod license. Already tried to fill it, but since there's a stage tune from 2020 here, it needs an unlock on the table, but that's a different story. If you want to see in the future how to unlock on the table for flashing a boot mod via OBD2 connector, subscribe. I think we'll shoot a video on that next. What about the exterior?
The exterior is cosmic.
You had the F30M tech.
M body kit.
It was stock.
Xenon M trim.
So it's not a bum at all?
No.
It's already a good-looking F30.
Yeah, I like the look of the F30 a lot. But we're moving on. Time is of the essence. You gotta update something. You gotta do something somewhere. F30 is getting boring, I guess. F30, yeah. You go, because the F30 is a very cool car. You see it everywhere in town. Everybody's buying an F.
And we have a lot of viewers on YouTube who see the F30, and it's probably a big deal to a lot of people.
And with the F30, it's all clear. What to do, what to tune, what to change to improve what and why. Here, it's still a dark forest. First, you go through it, you make mistakes, like when the ME was broken. You go, you break it, you look for what you can there, what cold flavor, what intercooler there, where what is sold. There is practically nothing in Ukraine. You have to bring everything, mostly from the USA. But that's all the way. The important thing is not the end result, but the path you take.
Yeah, well, it depends.
It's interesting, everything is new. And that's one of the highlights of what you're getting now. Because in a year, 2 or 3, everyone will know. It will have already been discussed 100 times on forums.
When you G20 replaced F30, how's that, the first time you sat in the G20? From America, it came from you. How did you feel? What immediately threw you in the eye regarding F30?
The thing that caught my eye, of course, was
Tell future clients, current clients of the F30, what they will immediately feel.
The dashboard caught my eye, of course, but because you're looking at it first. Because the standard one, it seems to me, is washed out and not clear enough. It has its own set of disadvantages, and this is exactly just right.
Well, it's similar in design, but it's just got a slightly different ride. The shooters too.
Yeah, they're going in the same direction, but
Color scheme.
the color scheme, font and clarity, sharpness, it changes. It's wider and bigger there. And because of that, apparently on the screen, it blurs somehow. It's better here.
Okay, what else?
Immediately, I changed it. It had fine wood, natural light wood. Now it's brown. I replaced it with forged carbon. For the forged carbon set, I paid $100. The instrument cluster is carbon, of course, with backlighting. You can choose any color for the backlighting. You can play around.
I can already see it.
It's blue.
By the way, what do you think of the gear selector? I sat down and tried it. I didn't like the P button. I'm used to pressing P from the top.
Yeah, it's a matter of habit. After sitting in the F series, this one feels smaller and less intuitive. Have you driven it for 2 weeks already?
Right, there's no traditional PRND on it. It's more like a laptop.
Yes.
You click something and do something else.
I've been driving for 2 weeks. I'm absolutely used to it. I don't understand how I drove the F. I mean, the selector in the F feels a bit big now, a bit extra large, like I don't get it extra. And then again, it's kind of like the X.
By the way, I'm looking at it. There's an interesting climate control. The knobs, right? It reminds me of something. The E46, and I had to keep pressing the button. Took forever to get it right.
The knobs turned into buttons that go up and down. In general, they're quite intuitive. You don't need to go into the MGU, adjust anything, or search through menus.
Just reach out and click. For example, let's say it's 22. Now, if I need to quickly change it to 32, and let's do this.
Overlay.
24. 24. 25. Hey, one got it 28. Understandably.
Multimedia. Well, it's handy enough here.
Oh, out of the box, it's a carpool. Yeah, no, you don't have an iPhone.
I'm getting my Android. Let's not say how.
You're an Android Auto?
Yeah, Android Auto, it pops up.
Yeah,
Android Auto lights up, that means it's connected. And it sees Waze, it sees Google Maps, it sees YouTube Music, and so on.
What are you doing? Like a 360-degree
No,
view?
that's not. That's a very interesting button, by the way. You can press it and it'll be green or red. If it's green, it turns on all the aids
like
that are
this
here,
one.
the assistants, and it will not let you drive over the double solid line.
Is that specifically in this car you have?
This is, as far as I know, in the 3 Series, there is an assistant and an assistant professional. Now it's individual. I turned off the assistant so he could give me...
No, if you go maximum. I'm all on now. What's on?
It's on lane keeping, like, if I want to, like... You see, to go into the other lane, my rudders start vibrating, and it automatically, if I'm going to, you see... it automatically puts me back in my lane.
Understood. We've covered the main advantages of the G20 and F30, but I think the G20 will be bought not only for these reasons. I believe the main reason for the purchase will be that it's the latest fresh version of the BMW 3 Series. It's like a new breath, a new perspective, a new vision. The F30 has already become familiar to many. It's already mainstream. I think the F30 will get boring for many. They'll want something new, something fresh, new colors, new interior design, and a new exterior. And they'll buy the G20, regardless of whether the options we've mentioned here are available or not. There's a trend among car manufacturers, including BMW, to increase the size of the bodies with each generation. The G20 is no exception. The previous model, the F30, was already closer to the E39 in terms of size for the 3 Series. It didn't quite match in length and wheelbase, but the G20 has for the first time surpassed the E39 5 Series in wheelbase length. This means it should be very comfortable, easily handling bumps and such. It turns out that in length, it's just a few centimeters shorter than the E39. So as we can see, there might be some nuances in handling. Personally, I've always been a fan of the 3 Series and never liked the 5 Series because of its size. But now it seems like the 3 Series is the size of a 5 Series. So in the future, I'll probably only be driving 2 Series cars and won't even look at the 3 Series anymore. And I'm sure it's already the 40th minute of the video. To everyone who's watched up to this point, we want to thank you and give you a little bonus. You can call our service center, and for first 10 callers, we offer a free suspension diagnostic at our service center with the promo code IDidWatch. Call and mention IDidWatch, and you get a free suspension diagnostic as a gift. Well, now that you've watched this part of the video, packed with the most details and bonuses about the G20, you're probably wondering how much does it cost to buy one in the US and so on. Now, we're showing you the real story of the owner who bought this car from the US, fully assembled, how much the importer promised, and how much it actually cost. So, let's go. In short, the story of this car's import for the specific owner. The owner was driving a 328 Stage 2. He played around with it, enjoyed it, but eventually got tired of it and decided to buy something new to start playing with. So he decided to look at the 330. He didn't want the 320 because it would have less power. He chose the 330. The 340 wasn't necessary for him since he drives on the track in Kyiv. He likes the handling and so on. A 3-liter engine is too much for that track. And plus, it's a lot cheaper. In the end, he was looking at the 330. He needed all-wheel drive. It was a must-have for the way he wanted to drive. He was only looking at the 330 with all-wheel drive. He started by checking Otoria. In January 2021, there were only 3 listings on Otoria in Kyiv. 2 of them were fakes. Because you get on the phone, they say we can bring it over. It's already gone and so on. It's understandable how these companies work. The third one turned out to be sort of a fake because there was only one VIN on Otoria. He decided to check it out. It was priced at what, 35? Oh no, 29. It was priced at 29 in Kyiv. He went there to check it out and took the VIN. The VIN didn't match the listing. He entered the real VIN and the car's front was completely smashed. He didn't even look at it. So it turned out to be a choice without a choice. He also called ads in Ukraine. He checked the VIN codes and there were frontal collisions on those cars as well. He didn't even consider them. He needed to choose a decent option, but there were no good options available. In the end, the owner decided to reach out to car importers from the USA. The owner gave the car importers the task of bringing in a lot priced around $20,000 for purchase, so that the car would end up costing around $35,000 or thereabouts. This car was bid on as about the 6th lot, meaning about 5 lots had been bid on before it. They kept going for over $20,000. After about 2 weeks, this lot comes up. They still bid the same amount, $20,000 or $2,500 even. They raised the limit from 20, so hoping to win it for at least $20,000. This happened after the New Year holidays. Maybe that played a role, but no one bid on this lot. In the end, it went for $16,600. Imagine the difference. It's like saving $5,000 just like that on the lot. Then even more on customs. It's like some kind of gamble, but not really. Take it as you will. This case just shows that by playing long or even just playing at all, you can win big. Not every lot goes for an outrageous price, like with our operator, for example. In the end, he bought his F30 for $1,500 less. Meanwhile, we were bringing a 328i for one of our clients. We didn't play for long, and by the fourth day, we had already won that lot. In reality, we could have waited longer and won it cheaper. This lot had only 8,000 miles, about 12,000 kilometers. It had been hit from the rear. We'll insert the pictures now. So based on the photos, it was clear that the right rear door would need to be replaced. The trunk closure, also the rear bumper, rear lights, and some other nuances. Possibly, there would also be proper bodywork repairs. So in total, the price is $16,600 plus $852 for the auction commission fee. So, before buying this car, even at the price of $20,000, the importers estimated that the car would cost around $35,000 all in. Now, let's see how much it's going to be. Now, according to the calculations of the car bringers, without repair, the car has already received $27,700. Now we will explain how this is calculated, and then we'll tell you how much the car actually cost in Kyiv without the repairs. The car was in Ohio. The delivery within the US cost the importer $650, but in reality, it turned out to be more expensive due to weather conditions, as it was winter. The car was delivered not to New York, but to another warehouse. This made it more expensive, and all these extra costs were passed on to the customer. Then, the sea delivery cost $933. Next, the company services cost $400. However, this seems a bit strange because in the calculation, there's also an additional $100 for some consulting services. It seems a bit strange. Perhaps it's $500 split into $400 for services and $100 for consulting. Additionally, the company included insurance. The insurance was around $500. When the car arrived in Odessa, the customs fees were $5,827. Then, there were shipping and brokerage services totaling $750. Registration of the vehicle at the port and towing fees, $20. And these informational services from the company cost 2,800 hryvnias. Well, basically $100. Next, during certification and registration, there are payments to the pension fund. The pension tax and certification, this was estimated at approximately $740 plus $300. Certification costs $300. The pension tax is $740. In the end, the car was estimated to be in Kyiv. $27,700. This is without the tow truck, by the way. In Kyiv, approximately $27,700. This company evaluated the car without repairs. But in reality, everything turned out differently than planned. Here, various fees are added to the payments. That is, due to the large lot amount, there were several installments. And it turned out that there were fees with each one. Plus, the lot was delayed. It stood on Copart for 3 weeks and wasn't picked up. So, I think part of it was covered by the owner and part by the suppliers. Let's take a look at the real table that the owner kept, showing when he withdrew money and when he was coughing up cash. The total amount ended up being $29,000. So, it was $27,700 and then it became $29,000. I think the difference is, in some items, for example, the tow truck from Kyiv, from Odessa to Kyiv, the customs clearance increased. For some reason, it became $6,100 instead of $5,850, so that's an additional $25 to $50. Plus, longer delivery across the US to another region, which added more costs, plus auction fees from transfers. In the end, it added up to $1,300. So this is the total amount we have now. Here's an interesting point. As you may have noticed, our lot ended up being $5,000 cheaper than planned. But look, if the lot had been purchased for $20,500, then the total price now wouldn't have been $29,000, but rather $34,000. And considering the increased customs clearance, it might even have been all $36,000. So, the lot still unrepaired would have ended up costing $35,000 or $36,000. That is, there's no way to even consider the idea that it could have been done for $34,000 or $35,000. Now we'll find out how much the repair actually cost. I think everyone's curious. The import company estimated the rear end repair at approximately $2,500. Now we'll go over the parts and list the prices for you. To avoid overwhelming you with various numbers and a ton of parts, let's focus on the main components. The bumper was about $400. The owner ordered it from Poland. The rear hatch, approximately how much? $500. about $500, again from Poland. The right rear door cost around $600. The taillights cost the owner around $300, also from Poland. It seems to me that the price comes out to about $30, but I think in Ukraine they would be more expensive, and the final parts were purchased from a Ukrainian dismantler. For example, some of them. It turned out there was an oversight on one control arm, like the wheel was bent, as you could see, but it turned out that all the control arms were damaged. The prices for the control arms were around $90 each. Another $50, the shock absorber was $180 a quarter. The sway bar link, control arms, side parts, hinges, basically a bunch of different bits and pieces. Dozens, hundreds of dollars. There were also hidden defects. Where the impact was near the right rear door, the inner fender was also dented. The owner ordered the outer part, but also the inner part. The dismantler didn't want to sell just the inner part of the fender. He said, well, buy the whole quarter panel. The outer part was slightly damaged, so he bought the quarter for a reasonable price, about $600. He only cut out the needed part from it and welded it in, right? So all of this in the body shop cost about $5,000, excluding the parts from Poland and the used ones from Ukraine, which were from the dismantler. A bunch of new parts were also ordered from Germany, totaling approximately around $2,500. The most expensive of these was the new rear fender, costing about 25,000 hryvnias, which is approximately $900. Also the glue, ordered for about $200 or so. The bumper trim was also damaged. This is the rear trim, the metal panels under the bumper where the hatch lock is inserted. It was also purchased and it cost about $400 or so. And in the end, to avoid going into the details of every small part, we have the total amount the owner spent on repairs. It turns out that if someone initially thought it would be $2,500 or $5,000, the final cost ended up being $11,500. I'm looking at it now and don't quite understand where it all went, but what's clear is that the body shop took about $5,000. I think this was because the original new fender was installed with rivets, as per the original design. Also, the body shop costs were higher because the owner requested all the parts, which he would have preferred to buy from Poland, such as, for example, the rear hatch, the door. He asked them to sand it down to 0 to match the original fit. So it means completely cleaning it and repainting. This increases the cost of the regular work. So the cost of the body shop work, imagine, is $5,000. Now if we take $11,500 and subtract $5,000, that leaves $6,500. Then we subtract Shadowline, which was about $600. That leaves $5,900. The parts from the dismantler, those from Poland and the new ones, came to around $5,000 to $5,900. Altogether, it's $11,500. In the end... By the way, this seems like a lot, doesn't it? Compared to the F30, it feels like quite a difference. Judging by the photo, I wouldn't say it's $11,500. Oh, and by the way, this also includes various fluids. The owner decided to replace the fluids as well, and also, so he put money on them too. They are also included in the $11,500. That means it includes the transfer case, differentials, and gearboxes as well. And also in the doors, and all the filters. So basically, if everything is done with original parts, it's accurate. By the way, some of it is used. The suspension is used from a dismantler. And it's fine, it was sourced properly. So if you do all the rubber seals, adhesives, and rivets with original parts, the total cost for all the parts came to $6,500. In short, draw conclusions. We're still in shock, Sergey. The owner has known this for a while, and we're just now learning about it. In the end, the car price in Kiev came out to around $29,058. We're adding all these parts, fluids, and so on. That comes to $11,580. Add it up, and that comes out to $40,639. This is considering that the car ended up being $5,000 cheaper. Damn, if it hadn't been $5,000 cheaper, the car would have cost $45,000, maybe $46,000. That price starts to smell like something, Sergey Beko. A 340? Or what? What kind of price is that? And if the expected price was 35, 34? It would have ended up being 40. Damn, this is some strange thing. So everyone is shocked except the owner. Personally, I thought up before this video, I thought that a G20 could be done for around 35, maybe 37, but from 30 to 35? Here, it turns out it miraculously came out to 40. Now, I'm really curious to film the second white G20, also the 330. It's recently been completed, and now it's being finished up with parking sensors. I'm looking forward to how it will turn out so I can make another video. I hope it will be cheaper or more rational, but considering the price of the lot, as here they were around 20, but we got lucky, so it's unclear how much it will cost. It's very interesting. But in defense of this price, it can be said that the Ukrainian market did not have anything reasonable for 35, and for 40, it simply did not exist. And also that a new car like this from the showroom with such options approximately costs in January 2021 year, it cost by special order, $67,000, approximately 67, and you would have to wait for it for about 3 months. Imagine that. And this one kind of came out to 40. And plus the mileage here is low. That is, the advantage is that it had only 12,000 kilometers on the odometer. I think you found this video interesting to watch. We put a lot of effort into it for you, covering everything in detail about the G20 and its import process. So, draw your own conclusions. We haven't made ours yet. We'll do that after the second little review of the G20, which we'll film soon. So give us a like, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for new videos, and we're off to get back to work. Listen, I came up with a new ending.